So Rock, how do you get through salt? How do I get through salt? I think salt is something that like really affects all of us, right? I don't think it really goes away either. I've always been a very salty man, actually. Now that I think about it. For the longest time, I mean, like, I've always been hella salty. I just kind of get better at dealing with it. I guess, like, a big thing I do to deal with salt is, I just give my opponents credit, man. Giving my opponents credit is something that I think really helps me get less salty. Because, like, if my opponent's beating my ass, I'm like, oh, he's trash. Oh, he's fucking shitty ass fucking opponent. What the hell, man? Garbage. He's just spamming these moves. It's like, it makes me even more salty because I'm not acknowledging the fact that, like, he's, you know, he could actually potentially be better than me in a way, you know? So I think, yeah, just like accepting that, oh yeah, my opponent, he's, you know, just trying to play the game as best as he can, and he's doing better than me, like, it is what it is, right? I think just coming to terms with the fact that, like, yeah, I lost to this guy probably because he's better than me, or because of my own incompetence, whatever. I think, like, one thing I do is, whenever I'm losing, I immediately think about what I could have done differently as well during that match, and trying to like process that in my mind. I think that having that kind of mental image almost of what I could do to counter that also helps, because I'm like, oh, okay, I lost to this here, but at least I learned something, right? At least I learned something, at least I know what to lab, so that next time this doesn't happen, and that helps me to get less salty too. So yeah, it's really just a mix of giving my opponent credit and trying to understand what I did wrong. And sometimes I also just do push-ups. I know that sounds dumb, but when I'm salty, sometimes I literally just get down and do push-ups to get the energy out, you know? Instead of like throwing something or punching a wall, I just do push-ups, and that helps if I'm like really salty. Like, it's gonna vary from person to person, for sure. That's just for me. I'm usually not too hard on myself for stuff I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to necessarily be hard on yourself. It's just kind of like recognizing that, oh yeah, I fucked up here, right? I could have done this differently. Oh, I lost because, oh yeah, my opponent kept on blocking these EXDPs that I was doing constantly. That's on me, my opponent guessed right. My opponent did well, right? But everyone's gonna have, like I said, their own little thing, their own little way to deal with salt. That's kind of just how I do it. Do you deal with salt differently, Matt? I'll take breaks and come back after 5 or so minutes. Yeah. That's another thing I do too sometimes, like when I'm actually like really salty. Like, yeah, it's good to just kind of take a little bit of a break, chill, rethink your life decisions, recuperate, you know, before you do anything hasty. Or like as soon as like you realize you're like starting to really get salty, you know, because you can usually like tell like that shit's about to derail. That's also a good time to just like, okay, take like a good 5 to 10 minutes, just maybe, you know, 15 minutes, whatever, however long it takes, just take a fucking breather and like, oh, reset your mind a bit. Because otherwise it just kind of escalates, man. It just adds up, it builds up. Kind of like learning a really hard riff. You have to allow your mind to decompress. That is true. You can, it's kind of good to compare fighting games to learning a new skill, because you're right. If you're learning something hard, you have to take breaks. Even when like you're just like studying, imagine like studying for school, right? You can't like study for fucking like 2 hours straight and then like expect to like be taking in, like still taking in all that information as effectively as you were in the first hour, right? Like after a while, your brain gets tired, you know? You're not like, you're getting tired of studying. You have to take a minute to chill, to actually properly absorb the information. And I think that goes for almost like anything that is like difficult, you know? And like the length of that break is gonna vary depending on what it is and all that and the situation, but yeah. Another reason why it's important to take a break, and like, I don't know if I mentioned this, the saltier you get, usually the worse you're gonna perform. And the worse you perform, the more you lose. And the more you lose, the saltier you get. So it's just this downward spiral of salt that just gets worse and worse. Ugh, you just get fucking bodied by the salt, man. You get fucked up real bad if you don't take a break. You can, it gets Trust me, guys, I've been in the fucking darkest depths of salt before, and it's not good. It's not a good place to be.